Hi, I'm Lita Leapin.
And I'm Jim Gordon.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight. We're here at Hydra. Gotcha.
Got me. You know, we haven't been back. This is pretty much our prime location with our show. We're back here for the first time since midwinter. And Lita, we've got a very unique, special show. We've never done this before.
We have not, and we are focusing entirely on singer-songwriters.
That's right. From Canada, the U.S., and other parts of the world. It's all coming up on Our City Tonight.
This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Last call, order anything at all. Here's to you and yesterday. I'm still in love.
What you're looking at is the video song for a great song called Last Call. It is written and sung and composed by our next guest, who is coming to us from one of my favorite cities on the planet. It is early morning there in Sydney, Australia. Great pleasure to welcome Greg Arthur. Greg, welcome to Our City Tonight.
G'day. Yeah, it is very early. You can see the luggage.
You know, I love it when a jazz singer gets up this early. That's always wonderful.
It's not natural. Yeah.
Hey,
you know that cream you can get for puffy eyes?
Oh, yeah.
It works.
Oh,
I've got
good.
Puffy eyes.
I often have my glasses on. Thank God I need glasses because they cover that kind of stuff up. Hey, I got to mention, you've come to us in a roundabout way. I knew of you. I'd heard about you in Vegas. About 3 weeks ago, I was in Sydney, sitting in a cafe one day, and I see a two-page story in the Sydney Morning Herald on you, and I said, oh, that guy. Go back to my hotel, listen to your music, and I've been a fan ever since. So I want to talk about the stuff you do. You know you're doing something right when a guy like Tony Bennett says, and I quote, "I love the way you sing. You have a fan in me, and the way you phrase, it is perfect." Talk about your early days where you took lessons and guidance and had some wonderful mentors early on that led you to find your voice, which is very much uniquely yours.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear that. Thank you. Yeah, I had a great vocal teacher named Don Graydon, and he taught a lot of very good Australian singers. And he was a tenor, I think, early on, and sang at Covent Garden and all sorts of prestigious places, and a wonderful teacher with the grounding of classical music, operatic training. So I can hold a note.
You know, it's interesting, Stu, because you did a lot of stage work in your younger days, and one of the things I've been struck by listening to your music, whether it's you doing classic jazz standards or your own music like we just played, you have a great understanding of the movements of an orchestra. The orchestra is there to really support you, but you also do great standards, but you have an ability to make them your own without taking away the integrity of the original songwriter's intent. Walk us through the balance that you've clearly perfected when you're doing songs like Nature Boy or The Way You Look Tonight. Great stuff.
Thank you. Well, you've got to find your own truth in the song. So the lyrics of all of these songs from the Great American Songbook are beautiful. They're a piece of somebody's life that has literally gone down onto the page. And when you're talking about lyricists like Lorenz Hart, there's so many layers to what they've written. You can find your own truth in the lyrics. So take a piece of your own life, put it into it, then study the arrangements, the orchestrations, especially if they're not written for you personally. If it's something that's been written for Sinatra or Nat King Cole and you're getting up in front of an orchestra and you're going to sing this, wow, yeah, you've got to find your own way through it. You've got to weave through that beautiful arrangement, pick out the places where you can be original and not try to ride on the shoulders of giants too much. It just takes a little time and sitting down at the piano and working on the arrangements and studying them.
It's interesting too that when I notice you do a great version of Nat King Cole's Unforgettable. I would imagine it must be kind of intimidating at times when you're taking a song like that, which is so associated with Nat King Cole, even though everybody's done the song. That's his. Do you find is it more intimidating, let's say, when you're taking on and Sinatra has a dozen songs like that, but what do you want to do when you take a song like that, knowing it is so associated with an icon like Nat King Cole or a Tony Bennett or a Sinatra?
Well, first of all, change the key.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. I think tempo, rhythm, try to understand where you're going to go with it, that you can make it a little different for people without ruining the song that they love so much. That's important. I learnt that in Las Vegas. If you go too far, if you're working in a lounge and you go too far with the tune in a different direction and people don't recognize it, unforgettable. That's right. It's just awful. And then people don't react well to that. They want to hear that romantic tune that they love so much. But yeah, find your own way through it, like I was saying before.
Yeah,
it's very important.
It's like that person I saw years ago that did an upbeat version of Autumn Leaves. You just go, no. You don't do an upbeat version. So, hey, you mentioned Vegas, that's where I first heard of you. You had a long run there. You've been all over the planet. You played some great locations, including Vegas. I do want to get serious for a second, though, Greg, because I was touched by. There's been challenges. Everybody has them in life. You were about to record a new album a few years back, and diagnosed with leukemia. You went home. Say you're in remission now and in good shape. You're recovered.
Yes.
Talk about that period in your life, and I don't want to sound cliche by any means, but did that affect the way you look at life and your music and your work nowadays?
Very much. It was a horrible interruption. Have you ever seen that episode of Seinfeld where they're about to get the pilot goes on? And George Costanza finds a thing on his lip and decides, okay, I'm going to be successful, so God's going to give me cancer. It's a really ironic episode for me. I watch it every now and then, and it's hysterical, but there's kind of that thing in the back of your head sometimes. You think you're just on a roll, what's going to happen? It was a horrible period because I was incredibly tired and finding it really hard to do anything, and was obviously very sick, but I had just met and made friends with Jorge Calandrelli, the incredible arranger and conductor. I was doing gigs with Brad Garrett at his club in Las Vegas, having so much fun working with such a funny man, and then singing jazz later at night after the comedians had got off stage. And Brad's a huge fan of jazz. He's a friend of Chris Boddy, and Brad plays drums every now and then. I was working with Tom Rainier at Herb Albert's jazz club up in Bel Air, and I was really on a roll. But sometimes things happen that make you stronger. And I'm well now. That's why I'm happy to talk about that period. I didn't talk about it at all while I was sick. I don't like that. I didn't want that to identify who I was. So I kept it to myself, but I'm well now, and very, very grateful. And I'm going to get back out there and hopefully come and visit you guys and work in Canada again. I love it over there.
We're going to hold you to that, sir. I'm glad you're well. And for our viewers out there that may not know Greg, check out GregArthur.com and his latest album, Jazz and Cocktails. Lots of stuff to view on YouTube and on his website. And as I said, wonderful, wonderful singer. Sir, you really have mastered that art. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. And yes, we look forward to seeing you here in Vancouver. Greg, thanks for joining us. And I want to shout out to Lionel, who's a big help, your PR people on the other side of the planet where you are.
Lionel Medford.
Yes. Greg, thank you, sir. Look forward to talking with you again.
It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Cheers.
My one Garden City of Sydney. I've never been
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
You're looking at the video for the new single called Head on a Stick. It is from the forthcoming album, Consequences Coming. It'll be out April 27th. As we continue the Our City Tonight spotlight on musicians, artists, singer-songwriters from around the globe. We're joined by a guy who's been making music for close to 50 years. And again, another great album out. Glenn Matlock joins us from London. Glenn, hi from Canada.
Good evening, guys and girls. How you doing? All right?
Doing well, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Great to have you on. We're going to jump right in. And this new album was created during a really tough time, during COVID. Tell us what that journey was like.
Yeah, well, it started off just before COVID and then got a little bit sidetracked because of COVID and lockdown. But that was kind of a good thing in a way, because I'd written the vast majority of the songs prior to that and then recorded them just before that. And then I revisited them and I kind of thought, well, I got something here, but maybe I can add to it somehow. And I wrote a couple of new songs in the lockdown period, one being Head on a Stick, which you've just played, thank you, and the last song on the album called This Ship. And when I did that, I thought, and then I went into a different studio and I thought, actually, the singing's a bit better. So I re-sung the whole album and then got it mixed by a mate of mine in New York who worked on my last album, really good engineer, a guy called Mario McNulty, who I met through El Slick, who plays on my album, and introduced me to him because he'd worked with him on Bowie's last album, you know, the Black Star album, and it all kind of came together.
One of the thread lines I find with your career over the last 45, 50 years is that you seem to come in, play with people, make some great music, or they come to you, you make these great super groups. Mentioning some of the people like Ronnie Wood and Mitch Ure, and you played with Blondie.
And Iggy Pop.
Talk about how this thread line has played through, because you really have just been parts of great supergroups over the last 40 years.
Well, okay, two things. I don't, although they're people of note, and I feel privileged that they kind of invite me to go and play with them, or if I invite them, they say yes and come. But they're kind of friends, you know. It's like Clam's a mate, El Slick's a mate, and musicians tend to muck in with each other. And for every record that comes out that's successful, there's thousands upon thousands of people in different combinations of things trying out ideas. They're having a go and normally doing it just for a laugh, and they've got nothing better to do. And some of them come out and they're a hit, and some of them don't. And they're just sort of in a cupboard somewhere on old cassette tapes and things. But, you know, musicians like to give it a go. In lockdown, there was, in England, I suppose in Canada and other places as well, you know, the medical staff were really hard pressed and at it, and a few people had ideas to do like charity records for them to try and raise some money, and I got involved with a few of those at home, but with people that I knew of but never really met. But one thing, Clem played drums on in LA, and I put some bass on over here, and El played on one in upstate New York in his little home studio, and then Marcello Detroit did something in San Francisco, and then Tony Hadley did something in London. None of us ever met, and it was kind of quite an interesting way of working.
You made your first name as the bass guitarist in the original Sex Pistols lineup there. Now, clearly there was definitely a musical seismic shift when you guys came on the scene. Can you talk a little bit about that? We would be remiss if we didn't talk about that original.
Well, we don't when you ended up remiss, my love. So we'd get fed. It was just a bunch of kids came together. There was nothing that appealed to them that was going on musically at the time or kind of culturally. We had things going for ourselves, but not what we really wanted to do. We all met under the auspices of Malcolm McLaren, had a teddy bear shop down the King's Road with his girlfriend Vivian Westwood. And on a Saturday afternoon, it was where every oddball and weirdo and ne'er-do-well passed through its doors for something better to do. It was a total antithesis of everything that was supposedly going on in London at the time. But it became what was going on in London at the time. Nearly everybody who passed through its doors went on to do something. You know, Susie came in, he became Sue from the Banshees. There was a guy who used to come in, William Brawl, but that was Billy Idol. There was photographers, there was people who did artwork, fashion designers, Adamant. You know, it's quite a happening place, and I feel privileged to have been part of that. It was quite a happening period.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the music and talent that followed you guys afterward in the late 70s into the 80s, as you mentioned a bunch of the bands there. Glenn, we want to just go out and remind people again, I mean, you talk about the Sex Pistols 45 years ago, and here you are with a new album out, your 7th solo album, out on April 27th, called Consequences Coming. The single, again, we're looking at it, Head on a Stick. Glenn, it's been a great pleasure as we continue our series on musicians from around the world. What a great body of work, and I would recommend to our viewers, go check out all his albums, including the one I love, Good to Go, from 2018. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, we're taking a break from interviewing our singer and songwriters to check out some new cocktails. We have Chris from Hydra with us, the cocktail man. Tell us a little bit about the new spring cocktails, because it's end of April now.
Yeah, we're rolling into, well, I guess we're in thorough spring now.
Yes.
Yeah, my brilliant beverage manager, Steve Bath, has come up with some new additions for our cocktail menu going forward. We have our beautiful Corfu Collins. This is the Midnight. And this is my favorite, the I'd Like a Word with Your Manager.
Love it.
Yeah, just some nice spring approached cocktails.
Great, so let's start with this one. Tell us everything about it.
Okay, our Corfu Collins, just a nice refreshing mix. You got a little balance of bitter and sweet here. We've got some Aperol in there. We've got a little, some botanist gin, some lemon juice, a little orange oleo saccharum syrup, and just topped with soda. So not a complicated beverage, but brilliant balance of bitter, acid, sweet.
I will tell you if it's brilliant. How about that?
You've always been a good judge.
Oh, definitely.
Excellent.
Definitely that you can taste the Aperol. It's perfect. Love that. Okay.
I'm gonna go on to our Midnight.
Yes.
I'm just saving my favorite for last
Okay,
here.
that's fair enough.
Our Midnight is just an answer to an espresso martini. Simple, again. We just do this with a little bit brandy, a little Kahlua, and a little white cacao, and espresso. But the brandy just kind of gives it a little bit more depth of flavor and brightens it up a little bit.
Nice little option. Okay, I am tasting. Oh, definitely a favorite. This better be really kick.
This.
And I can't say the last part of that.
I advertise this as my favorite because for a long time, one of my favorite classic cocktails has been The Last Word, which is just a perfect balance of gin, chartreuse, maraschino, and lime juice. And this is just a little take on The Last Word, where I'd like word with your manager. So this is a combination of tequila, some Casamigos Reposado, a little yellow chartreuse, some Amaro, and a little bit of lime juice and grapefruit juice. So just bright, citrusy, a little bit of bitter. Again, I mean, cocktail balance comes from sweet, sour, bitter, and delusion. And this has got it all.
Oh, Chris, I'm not a big tequila fan. That is absolutely delicious.
We like to sneak up on you with tequila.
Yeah, that is really, really good. Wonderful. I also want to mention Alouette, our sister restaurant.
Our sister restaurant just down the street from us in Hotel Soleil. Beautiful little French bistro. Great menu, great dinner option. They have a fantastic wine list, and they're doing some fantastic wine promotions right now. I would encourage diners to check it out. In between, of course, visiting Hydra. 2 or 3 times a week.
Of course, we love being here at Hydra, and thank you, Chris, for these great new cocktails. We're going to get back to our interviews with our singer-songwriters.
Well, we're taking a little break from the singer-songwriter spotlight to talk about one of our columns.
Yes, one of our columns that appears in Iconic Concierge magazine. It's kind of a mirror image of our television show.
Yeah, some of the people and places that we cover you'll find in the latest edition of Iconic Concierge magazine in the Our City Tonight column. It's available now. Well, what you're looking at is a lovely video accompanied by a lovely song, great talent. The song is called Clayton. It is from local artist, singer-songwriter Rahel Johannes. We continue with our spotlight on musicians, artists from around the world, and of course here in BC and Canada. We're back here at the Hyatt where we filmed recently in their grain bar to talk to this very talented young woman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, we're very excited. Now, you were actually born in Vancouver.
I was.
You went a few places, like Trader went to Ontario for a while, but then you found yourself back here. But you were in Nashville. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, I was living in Toronto, and I kind of just was fed up with the city. My partner at the time offered up his 90 Ranger, and I got my license, and I learned how to drive stick on the way and drove from here to Nashville and lived there for about 5 months.
Wow.
As we always like to do when we have people on the show from around the world to talk about your beginnings, you really are reflective and open with your music. But how does, and we were talking about this before we went on camera, about how country folk has really no face. It's gaining more and more people from around the world. Talk about how country and folk influenced you and what drew you in about it.
The storytelling. I think some of my favorite artists, Sarah Bareilles, Donovan Woods, the way Laurie McKenna, Liz Rose, it's just the way a very mundane scenario can become this huge story with specifics and emotions. And I think that it's so, as a listener of music, I love listening to other artists who bring to life my mundane moments. Yeah. And I think I have just been drawn to doing that for others as well. And it so happens that it has veered into a country folk genre.
Well, absolutely love your first single, Beautifully Black. Can you explain a little bit, like listening to the lyrics, it really hits home, and the beautiful music video alongside that, your own family, it's incredible. Describe that a little bit for our audience.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this earlier. The concept of the song I had never anticipated to write, but I was watching the election way back when, and there were some states I remember that were making it difficult for Blacks to vote during the election, the presidential election in the United States. And I remember thinking, so much of our culture, so much of our everyday is derived from Black culture, yet it's so difficult for Blacks to contribute to our society. And for a moment there, you think, like, it doesn't make you question your proudness, but for a second, it's when you see it on media, you feel kind of suppressed. And so I tried to get out of that headspace and think about all the things that positively make me who I am as a Black Canadian, African. And so I came up with just that, like lyrics about my uncle and my brother and,
wonderful.
And the way my hair grows in, and how they're not negative things about me. They're what make me me, and I am proud to be beautifully Black. So.
And certainly reaching a lot of people. We were just looking at some of your numbers here: 40,000 streams on Spotify, 25,000 on Apple Music.
50.
Almost 50 now. Okay,
new
for
numbers.
Beautifully Black.
Congratulations.
You do work a lot. We know you doing other stuff, but you debuted your EP, All Four Corners, last fall.
Yep.
Another new album, fingers crossed, will be out, or as kids say, dropping. Right?
Yeah.
This fall, called Hometown Hero. We played earlier at Clayton. Are you finding venues enough around our city, this country, for you to be able to perform? Or do you get to festivals often to?
I think in terms of festivals, I'm on my way there, and I think I will, fingers crossed, make my way to their stages. But with So Far Vancouver and other even local festivals, my brother's my manager, and we're both making connections, and I'm finding that I am finding stages to play. And Vancouver at one time was a sleepy city. I think it's reviving itself in the art scene, and because of that, I think I'm here at the right time, and because there's so few of us, I am on the stages, and I think it's like a slowly but surely.
Check out this fantastic young talent that we will be expecting to appear on the show again. You've done once. You start climbing that ladder. You are guaranteed we'll have her sign a document.
I think we're gonna get her to write a song for our show.
Yeah, exactly.
New title sequence for these two idiots. Yes. Rahel Ioannis, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have you, and congratulations on all your success. Check her out on all the platforms. It's another segment in our music series. And hey, thanks to the folks here at the Grain Bar in Hyatt Regency for giving us a room to chat.
Closed captioning and other promotional considerations provided by Hamilton High Street Senior Residence, Richmond's newest senior living community.
Well, that was a lot of fun, and I am still humming some of those songs. Such talent.
God, a lot of great talent. Thanks to all the singers and their PR people. The PR people really help us set all this stuff up. So thanks to the singers from Canada, locally and internationally, for joining us on this very special singer-songwriter spotlight. And Lita, we should say thanks to our friends here
At Hydra, yes. We always enjoy filming here, as well as love their sister restaurant that's just around the corner, Alouette. Beautiful French bistro.
Yeah, both places great happy hour, we should
Oh,
say. Yes.
definitely.
Well, we're going to leave you with a guy that started the singer-songwriter spotlight from Australia, Greg Arthur, and his song Last Call. I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight.
Last call, one more drink to drown it all.
Don't forget to check out past episodes and individual interviews, all on the Our City Tonight YouTube channel. While in Whistler, Our City Tonight stayed at the Blackcomb Lodge, serving guests in the heart of the village since 1980. The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
But what's the point if you don't need me? Last call, standing up and walking tall. A man should know when it's time